Hi, I'm Peggy Corniger, and I'm a writer and the author of the book Lose Your Mind, Open Your Heart. And I also have a blog that I've been writing for almost 5 years now. It's on my website every 2 weeks. And a lot of times people ask me, how do you go about writing a blog, or how do you approach writing in general? And so this is just a little bit of a view of how I do it and a few ideas or tips that maybe would help you if you are a writer or if you want to be a writer or if you're thinking about doing a blog or a book. Now, I'm going to talk about blogs first, but a lot of what I have to say also applies to books. And there are, as you probably know, dozens, hundreds probably, of types of blogs out there. There's cooking blogs, raw food blogs, book reviews, things on science fiction, political viewpoints, spiritual inspiration, tips, self-development, tips on how to be healthier, to be wealthier. There's financial blogs. Almost anything, gardening, almost anything you can think of, there are blogs on. And mine is probably focused on something, I would say, that is generally spiritual, but it has a social consciousness component to it. So I'm writing about my own spiritual growth and evolution, but within the context of the greater evolution of the world and what's going on in the world, and how that affects everyone. And I try to write in a positive way that's kind of like an antidote to the news that's on the mainstream media that tends to be pretty negative and engenders fear. So one of my intentions in my writing is to provide an alternative to that view, that we don't have to live in fear. And so that's what mine is about. But you'll find lots of advice about writing blogs. The people who do marketing will tell you to choose your audience, know who you're writing for, which is probably good advice. They also will tell you to look at, if you start writing, look at which ones get the most viewing, which are the most popular, and then to write more in that vein. I tend to not necessarily agree with that. That may work for things like if you want to create a worldwide audience, or if you have a goal about selling a product or something like that, or if you have clients that you're writing for. However, I tend to just, if I had to sit down and decide what I was going to write about, I would never write. That would be too much of a burden to me to have to sit and think about it. So mine don't come from a mental place. Mine just kind of come through me, and from what I would call my soul. And that's why I talk about writing a soul expression, because it's a way of expressing that innermost part of you in the world. And it can be inspirational, it can be funny, it can be playful, it can be moving, it can be anything. But the key is to be yourself, not somebody else's idea of what they think you should write about, or even what you think you should write about from a mental point of view. It's to get in touch with that part of you that is unique, that is your soul expression in the world. And so the question is, how do you do that? So I could tell you a little bit about how I do it, and that some of these ideas might apply to you, and you might be able to, it might spark you into thinking of other things that would work for you. So one of the ways that I tap into that part of myself, that's like, some people call this the muse, or the inspiration, the higher self. I'm calling it soul expression here, but it's basically the inspiration that comes to you. So one of the key ways that I tap into my own inspiration is during and after meditation. I have a regular meditation practice each morning, 20 minutes to an hour, and I find that within that, I open up to that part of myself that is the wise self, that is the soul self. And at the end of 20 minutes to a half hour, there's a peaceful essence, a wise essence, an inspired essence that comes through me with ideas and thoughts and inspirations about what to write. And it's like I'm downloaded in a certain way. And don't be intimidated by the word download. I'm not a channeler. It's just tapping into your own internal unique self, your own inspiration, what you get excited about, what you get passionate about. And if you get quiet, if you become relaxed, that part of you comes to the fore. And after meditation, your mind often quiets down. You get to the deeper place, the soul place, the heart place, and your unique self then comes to the fore, and thoughts and ideas come to you. So it would be good to have a piece of paper or your journal next to you, so that after you come out of meditation, you can jot down some of these ideas and then later transfer them to when you sit down at the computer, to sit down, or your laptop, to sit down and actually write an article or a blog piece. And you don't need to keep a journal. You can just have little Post-its or little piece of paper where thoughts come to you. Another place, and also you don't have to have a meditation practice. What might work just as well is just to take a few minutes of quiet in your life, to relax, and then things may come to you. It's key to have a little bit of space within which you can relax. And the other way that I'm going to talk about is in nature. I am very inspired in nature, and in the backyard, gardening for me, or walking in a park or a nature sanctuary, or on a trip, in the mountains or by the ocean or wherever. I tap into that place that is expansive within myself. It opens me up at a deep level to my higher self, my soul self, and also to something greater than me. Nature is greater than us. And nature is a beautiful expression of God in this world. If you believe in God, you can call it source energy, greater intelligence, whatever you want to call nature. It is something so beautiful that is around us that we have access to every day, that can inspire us and open us to that part of ourself that is our soul, our spirit, our inner muse, and it can take us to the place where we would find inspirations for writing. And a funny place you might not expect where I get inspirations is in the shower. I'll take a shower in the morning, and as I'm relaxing in the shower and the water flowing over me, thoughts, ideas, inspirations start to come to me. And of course I can't have my journal or a piece of paper in the shower, so I have to kind of do a little memory tagging of key words, so that when I get out of the shower, I wrap a towel around me, find a piece of paper, and write down those key words that will maybe become a blog or an article or even a book later on. And I haven't really talked about books yet. A lot of what I say here applies to blogs and books. It's about writing in general. But my books have also come to me in this way. My first book, Living with Spirit, I was walking in a nature sanctuary and suddenly was downloaded with the entire table of contents for the book. And then after that, pieces of it kept coming to me at times when I would be out walking or in a place of quiet or after meditation or whatever. And gradually it came through in that way for me. My second book also came through in that way. It initially came out of a group of us who were on retreat, and we were discussing creative expression in the world and kind of being inspired by each other. And I made a commitment within that group to write a second book, which I hadn't had any plans to do until that moment. But once I had that intention, once I created that possibility within my consciousness, it opened the door then for inspiration to come through. And the title came through first, Lose Your Mind, Open Your Heart. And everything gradually flowed from that about what I wanted to include. And it kept going through the whole process. And the other thing I wanted to say, too, about when these inspirations come to you is to just let them flow. Let yourself write without a critic's mind. Try, if you can, to keep your mental critic out of it, your mental editor out of it, to just let it flow. And I'm saying this in particular to myself because I was an editor as my profession for many, many years, and it has served me well. It helps me after the fact. I don't tap into my editor while I'm writing with inspiration, while I'm flowing, because it can get in the way. It kind of can be a voice of judgment or just categorization of things or word choice. And you can do that later. The key at that moment when you're inspired is to get it flowing out of you. And then later you can go back and edit and work with word choice, work with placement of paragraphs, work with overall sense. You can work with all sorts of things at that point. But when you're writing, when you're inspired, you just let it flow. And you try to be in that place that is your heart. You want to share your heart in the world. You want to share your soul in the world, because that is what touches other people's hearts. That is what either inspires them or helps them and supports them in some way. A lot of people now write self-help blogs of 10 ways to be more conscious in the world, 5 raw food recipes, 6 ways to live a healthy, abundant life. There's all sorts of people who do helpful, inspiring blogs in that nature. Mine aren't quite like that because I don't break it down into steps. But the idea is to speak from your heart, but also to keep the you in mind, that you're not alone in the world, that you're speaking to everyone else out there who is a reflection of you. And it would be nice if you could help them, if you could give them support for where they are. That isn't your goal, because your goal really is just to express your soul. But if you do it from a place of sharing, of knowing that you are just one voice amongst many voices in the world, then it can help people. If you're speaking deeply from your heart and your soul and your own experience, people are touched by that. I found that a lot of my most personal blogs, people really respond to. I always have an I voice in what I write, in almost everything. Some of them are more of a personal experience. I've written about things like my marriage to my partner 2 years ago, and people really responded positively to that because I was opening up and sharing a part of my life. And I've shared things like personal challenges when I had a health challenge and how I went through that, how I addressed it from a place of my own spiritual journey and where it took me. And then I've written about my parents. I've written about many things that were unique in my own life, but with kind of like an open heart so that I could see it as part of what we're all experiencing on this planet, because we're all going through unique things, but we are all connected. And the connections that happen with blogs or with writing books, wherever you express yourself, it can even be through emails. You are expressing yourself, you're reaching out to others, and those invisible, quote, invisible connections are what keeps us together on this planet. And the more we can provide our own input into that, I think it's wonderful. I think expressing yourself about something that you're excited about or that you're passionate about through writing is a wonderful creative way to express yourself in the world. And I just want to wish all of you well who are embarking on this path, or maybe you're already on this path now. I think that it's sometimes you're on a solitary path, but just know that there are many others out there who are also reaching out to each other and sharing, because ultimately it's about sharing. When you're writing, you're sharing. And so writing as soul expression, to me, is a way of being yourself in the world. And it's a way of sharing in the world. And it's a way of giving something back to a world that is in transition now. And in many ways, that's why we're all here now. That's why we came to this planet at this time, to share and to give to others and to be a part of a greater transition and transformation that's happening on the planet. So those are some of the ideas about writing that I have, and how to do it and how to approach it. And you can find all sorts of ways to tap into your individual self. You don't have to meditate, you don't have to garden, you don't even have to walk or hike or anything like that. Inspiration can come to you in a million ways. If you're a runner, while you're running, if you're biking, if you're skiing, or if you're just sitting quietly. There's so many ways that inspiration comes to us. And we just have to be open, and we just have to relax into it. And that's about all I have to say about being a writer and being a blogger. And I think that what you will find is that as you open to it, as you open to this part of yourself, it will begin to flow more. And that is the flow that will carry you forward and connect you to other people. So I wanted to end with information about my own blog, if any of you are interested in reading it. It's on my website, which is spiritflower.wordpress.com. And it's also now featured on the website soulspring.org. And it comes out every 2 weeks. On soulspring.org, it's every week, because some of my past blogs are interspersed with the current ones. And also my books, both of my books, the first one, Living with Spirit, and the second one, Lose Your Mind, Open Your Heart, are available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and all sorts of places like that online. And also, part of SoulSpring's new venture is they've created a university, SoulSpring University. And Lose Your Mind, Open Your Heart is going to be part of that. It's going to be a course, so that chapter by chapter you will be able to read the book, and there will be, questions that you can talk about. You can use it with a book club, you can use it just on your own, but it will be available as part of the SoulSpring University coming up very soon. And once again, that website is soulspring.org. And that's the information about my writing, my soul expression as a writer. And I send you love. Take care. Good luck. Be well.